Have you ever finished a video and thought you were happy with the colours until you put it up against a professional video and realised you were way off? Well, that's because your eyes are lying to you. In a moment, I'm going to show you just how your eyes can play tricks on you and why that's such a massive problem when colour grading, but what to do about it. There are three massive mistakes that videographers make when they're thinking about white balance and colour grading their videos. And in this video, I'm going to show you what those mistakes are and how to fix them so that you get more professional looking videos every time, along with a super simple tip that I use on every single video when I need to fix my white balance. Now, if you're new to colour grading and you find it all a little bit technical and scary, don't worry because I'm keeping this super simple and I guarantee you're going to love it after this and you'll be using it on every video. So if you've ever found yourself tweaking the colours for hours only to find that you're making things look worse, then you're probably making this first mistake. A lot of people tend to put their footage in and then just instantly throw on a LUT and start colour grading and tweaking things straight away because they're being impatient. And I won't lie, that used to be me. I just wanted to get things done as quick as possible. But all that's going to happen doing things like that is that you're going to waste time and make things look worse, and you won't get the best out of your footage. By using the same techniques that I'm going to share with you, my videos have improved dramatically and my colour grading workflow is much faster. See, you need to make sure that you're correcting your footage before you start the grading process. Because if something isn't quite right to begin with, all your colours will look off and it'll be impossible to fix. Also, you won't be able to match other clips in the sequence either. People misunderstand white balance, and I see why, but there's a little twist at the end of this video. But first I want to show you the quickest way of thinking about white balance and the only two things that you need to know for now. In a nutshell, white balance is making sure that the whites in your image look white, or at least that's what people think. As I mentioned earlier, there's a twist, so I'll come back to that later. For now though, all you need to know is if your image looks a little bit too warm or orange, you need to use the temperature slider to shift that colour more towards the blue, which is going to even it out because those colours sit opposite on the color wheel, so you're basically cancelling out that orange. And then the second thing is if your image looks a little bit too green, use the tint slider to bring it to the opposite side of the color wheel towards pink, and again that evens it out. So all you need to do is if something looks a certain way too far, just bring it to the opposite side, and then that's going to make sure that your whites sit in the right place. But let's park that here and we'll come back to exactly how to do that in a bit. The big problem with color grading is that our eyes adjust to what we're looking at, much like they do in the dark, but this means they can play tricks on us. So if you look at this image, it looks a little bit too blue, but if you hold it there for a few seconds, it starts to look normal because our eyes are adjusting to it. If I go to the next image now, it looks way too orange in comparison, but if I hold it here for a few moments, we're going to get used to it again and it starts to look normal. You'll see that if we flick back to the original image again, how blue it looks in comparison. Our eyes are adjusting and balancing the colours for us, and this is why it's so dangerous when we're colour grading in isolation. Most people edit their videos in isolation like this and just guess what colours should look like. The video clips that you're piecing together won't match, and sometimes you'll notice that the colour and the grade of the video will gradually change throughout that video, and you're not going to get consistency in your videos. This is a big mistake, and to get around this, you should be using tools. They're going to level up your videography 10 times, if not more. I'm not a technical guy, so I've kept these tips really simple for you so you can follow along and it doesn't take too long to learn either, because I don't want to add any extra time to your edits. And I promise that by doing this, you're going to save heaps of time and get much better results. Now, you can train your eye to spot these little nuances, but to begin with, until you can spot certain things, I recommend using these two very simple tools that you'll find in just about any video editor. I'm using Final Cut Pro here, but you can follow along in any video editor that you're using. It just might look a little bit different. First tool we're going to use is an RGB waveform. You'll find that in the video scope. So if you go on view here and turn on video scopes, we'll change it to waveform. And if this pops up, just select RGB parade, and that's going to give you these three exposure values for red, green, and blue. So you can see here already that the red and green values are higher than the blue. We want to level these out. So to do that, we just open our color wheels, and because it's slightly more towards the orange, remember, like I said before, we just drag the temperature slider towards the blue, and that should even it out. So you can keep an eye on those values in the waveform until they're roughly equal, and then that's more balanced now. So if I show you the before and after, that was before, and there's the after. It's quite drastic. it looked alright to begin with until you see the after and you realise how far off it was. Now the problem with this method though is that depending on what you've shot, there could be multiple colours in the frame or a dominant colour in the frame. For example, like this shot here, there's a lot of green, so the blues are naturally going to be a lot lower than the greens would be. So that's when you've got to use your noggin and think, okay, well, it's going to be like that. But I'm going to show you how to get around that shortly. But now I'm going to show you a more precise method. Instead of the waveform, we're going to use the vector scope. And basically, the vector scope shows the color wheel and the saturation levels. This doesn't tell us what we need to do though. And that's why we're going to use a mask. We're going to select a mask. We're going to draw around a white section of the image. If you don't have something white in the frame, it's a good idea to bring a white card with you like this. If you don't have one, then just use something that's white, but make sure it's pure white. Otherwise, if it's slightly yellow, it's gonna mess up your white balance. White should sit bang on in the middle of that crosshair. But as you can see, it's leaning slightly towards the orange, which means we need to bring it towards the blue. So we're gonna go into color wheels again. And this is a game of just doing little fine adjustments. Bring it towards the blue and you'll see that it's just sitting above. So I'm just going to bring it to the green slightly, a little bit more towards the blue. That, to me, looks like it's bang in the middle. So if we take off our mask now and then show the before and after with the colour wheel, that is perfectly white balanced now. Now you don't have to be perfect with this, it's just a guide and you don't want to make huge adjustments. If you find yourself making really drastic adjustments with the colour wheels or the temperature and the tint sliders, then it either means you've set your white balance completely wrong or white shouldn't be pure white. So now that we've fixed our white balance, everything should look perfect, right? Wrong. See, the thing is, if we make our whites look white in every single clip, under every type of lighting condition, we're taking away the natural look and feel of the videos. I'll show you what I mean. I filmed this clip in golden hour. The warmth of the image makes this shot look and feel warm. If I white balance it and make it look white, it takes away from the warmth of summer and what I want the vibe to look like. If I use a warmer light source like a lamp or a candle flame, those whites are gonna look warmer and more orange under those lights. So it'd be totally wrong to try and fix them because it just would have the wrong effect. Plus, if you pull the colours so far, everything looks very odd and the colours aren't what they should be. And you'll start to get patches and graininess in your footage. If we filmed something under a green light and balance the whites, our colours will be all over the place. If we have a green light, it needs to look green. You'll see in this shot here that I'm in a wooded area and there's a lot of green. My skin even looks quite green and yellowy. And that's because the green, there's so much green reflecting off all the different surfaces and making everything look a little bit more greener than it actually is. I've actually leaned into the green look in this and I've used one of my LUTs on this called Motel, which you can find in my preset pack. There's a slight green tint to that white. But the thing is, if we were to fix the white balance so everything looks perfect and the skin is a little bit more pink, it would look so unnatural because it just wouldn't look like that in the woods. So it would have a completely different effect. So we don't always want to balance the whites and make them look pure white. So this is why white balancing can be hard to understand. Yes, you need to correct your footage, but at the same time, you still want to make it look how you intended it to look. And I like it a little bit warmer. People say set your white balance in your camera to 5600, but I prefer 6200. It just looks a little bit more natural and a little bit warmer, and I just personally like that look. One way to really help with this is to use references. You can grab screenshots off Google, but I like to use something called Shot Deck. This isn't sponsored, it's just something I've tried a free version of. And you can search for images from films that are a similar vibe and style to what you're going for. So you can pull that into your editor, look at the waveforms and the vector scopes and see where the colors are hitting on those scopes. And then when you bring your image in, you can try and match that to make it look the way it does on theirs. Obviously, it's so important to make sure you film things properly first. And obviously using the tips within this video are gonna help you get closer to those reference images. But if you don't know how to set up the camera properly in the first place, you're never gonna get anywhere close to those professional images. And there are so many more mistakes that videographers make when they're filming. So if you wanna make sure you avoid these mistakes, I highly recommend watching this video next because it's gonna show you the solutions to all the problems and make sure that you get more professional looking cinematic video every single time. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.